Appreciate you.
All right, what's going on, you guys? CWJ, the fourth episode. In this episode, we have a guest named Kyle Nishimoto. Did I say that right?
Yep, you get it right on the dot.
All right, now, Kyle, tell me a little about yourself. How did you play basketball growing up?
Yeah, so I played growing up, and then played in high school, but that's like the extent of my playing career.
Now, tell me when you found out that basketball was your passion. Like you knew that this was a field you want to get into, not as a player, but in the
Yeah,
league.
as a coach, I mean, I it's a tough question because like growing up, obviously Asian, 5'4",
Yeah,
didn't play college, wasn't the greatest on my high school team. Coaching for me was more of like a hobby growing up. I think when I was in college, I was doing, coaching some rec teams and a middle school team, and just didn't think that that was going to be a job for me because I was just realistic with myself.
right.
I think after getting my first internship with Golden State with the Warriors, that kind of opened my eyes of, you know, there's a possibility that maybe. And then I heard from more people within the Warriors. Uh, one of the people who was with the Warriors basketball camp, Jeff Adiego, who actually runs the basketball camps there, is the one who kind of told me about sports management as a degree, and that working in basketball is a legitimate thing, because I had expressed to him that I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I went to
Right.
San Jose State as a business major, because I just figured I'm in the Silicon Valley and that's where I'm at, that there's always going to be jobs there.
Mhm.
But I know that if I was in that field, working for somebody else doing 9 to 5, I wouldn't have enjoyed it. So I
Yeah.
said, well, what the heck, let me just try it. Let me just go for it. So, uh, yeah, to answer your question, I think it was once I worked for the Warriors, and then, was an intern, a game day intern in analytics, doing, sports view camera operating. And then she got an internship with the Bighorns, after volunteering. And from there on, it's history, and it became more of a reality. So, yeah, I don't know when it really came into fruition of, in my mind of it can be real,
Right.
but growing up, it was never me coaching pro basketball. Like, come on, there's no shot. I
Right.
would have told you you were just very drunk at the time.
Yeah. Now, what I found inspiring about your story was that what I read, you were at a G League tryout and you were wiping the floors. Is that correct? You were clean. You were
Yeah,
kind of just doing maintenance.
yeah. I mean, I volunteered. So like I told myself, the backstory to that was, at summer league, I had been working for the Warriors, I think, for 2 years, maybe 3 years. In the middle, I worked for the Oklahoma City Thunder,
Yeah.
when I went to school at OU. But the backstory there was that I just told myself, I'm not going back to the Warriors. I want to, uh, make a name for myself. I want to be a part of something. And because we had won 2 rings with the Warriors back then, and I just
Mhm.
didn't feel like I was a part of something. I didn't have a hand in it, and
Right.
I was like, I don't want this BS, front office ring. Like, I want a legitimate one. Like, I want something that I can work toward and feel
Yeah.
like I'm a part of. So yeah, I mean, I had met Anthony McClish, who was the assistant GM of the Reno Bighorns at the time.
Hmm.
Um, and he said, you can come out, you can volunteer. We've got no open positions, but if you want to come out and volunteer, more than happy. So I went up there, drove from the Bay Area up to Sacramento. They had a tryout in Sacramento. Yeah, like you said, I was wiping sweat off the floor for guys in a tryout. Then, the tryout, if any of you guys have been to a G League tryout, no offense, but some of the guys haven't played middle school basketball. Some of the guys didn't play high school basketball, but think they can play in the pro. So I'm wiping sweat for them. I'm getting them water. I'm just trying to just work my butt off to make it known that, I'll do anything you know, to work toward my dream of working in the NBA and NBA G League. So yes, I was definitely wiping up sweat on my hands and knees, and um, with a mop and everything.
Yeah, I interviewed Jeremiah Hill. He did a trial for the Lakeland Magic and he ended up making a team and played summer league with Orlando. And he mentioned that the G League tryouts are very divided and skill based. There's guys who do it just to like the publicity, just say they did it.
Yep.
They tried out for a pro team, and then there's guys that could actually play. So were you at all humbled like during that whole experience to just be like, I'm here in the moment. I got to work towards what I got.
For sure, absolutely. I think, you know, knowing that I was going to put all my eggs in one basket on not going back to Golden State no matter what, I
Mm-hmm.
was so thankful for the opportunity just to volunteer and just be in that environment to where I could then talk to the GM more, talk to Anthony McClish, pick his brain more, talk to the assistant coaches and the coaching staff there. Um, because if it weren't for that, I would not have been where I would definitely would not be where I'm at right now. So definitely going into it when I first showed up, I wasn't thinking of it as I'm wiping sweat for these guys that, didn't play high school.
Right.
I'm thinking of it more as I'm so grateful and thankful that I get to be here because not everybody gets to volunteer for this and be a part of a professional organization.
Mm-hmm. Now I
Yeah.
kind of want to go back to Golden State. You did camps there, is that correct?
I did camps there since I was 18. I was a camper back when I was growing up, and then
Yeah.
was a camp coach. Yeah, when I was 18
So when
for a
you were a
while.
camp coach, did you notice were kids when they were little was like I wouldn't say they were GMs or like scouts or like jumping the gun, but could you tell some kids were possibly have a pro career?
It's hard to say, because you just don't know. I think the one thing that is uh, interesting is the peak time. So,
Right.
it's hard to judge a kid at 7 years old or 10 years old. They may be great, at Warriors basketball camp, but then kids that are great there sometimes peak early and they decide, oh well, I'm the best, so I'm gonna stop working. I'm not, I'm good. I'm better than everybody else at the camp. And then they get to high school or get to their middle school games, and they meet somebody they've never met before, and they're busting their butt.
Right.
So it's hard to really gauge at that young of age of who can really have a pro career. It may be a little easier for the older group, which is I think they might be eighth grade. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe around there possibly, but then again, you just don't know. Yeah.
Now, did any of the Warriors players come down and like meet the kids at all?
Yep, every week they had some personnel, whether it's a player or a front office staff member, would show up
Now,
at the
what
camp.
players have you met that during that whole
Oh
experience?
man, shoot, Steph, um, Festus Ezeli, Jordan Poole, Damian Lee.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a lot. I was with Warriors camp. I'm 26 now, so I stopped doing Warriors camps 2 years ago. So from 18 to 24. So that's 6 years of camps, and I would do a camp every week with Warriors camps. So shoot, there's a lot of people. Donald Foyle, some of the older guys. Yeah, there's a good amount of players.
Okay. Now I want to go. You went to the G League tryout, and
Yeah.
I read you got an interview like right there, as a video coordinator. Can you like tell me about that? What was running? Like, did you expect that to happen because you were talking with the coaching staff?
No, like it was crazy because so I volunteered at that camp, right? So it was a 2-day camp. It was a
Yeah.
Saturday and then a Sunday. After
Mm-hmm.
Saturday, I was staying at my auntie's house that was up in Sacramento. I show up Sunday, and the GM comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, I got a question for you." And I was like, "Yeah, what is that?" And he said, "Well, have you ever thought about, you know, being director of basketball operations in the G League? I know you are undecided on what you want to do. You said possibly GM one day.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you're open to?" And I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and he was like, "Well, our video coordinator just took a job with the LA Clippers, and our Dobo, the director of basketball operations, took a job with a scouting company. So we've got two vacant positions. Are you ready for an interview right now?" And I was like, "Oh, absolutely." So I sat down, had a little interview, very informal, but it was very, very he was very different in asking his questions. You could tell that he thinks differently. Like, Anthony McClish thinks very, very differently, and I think that's what made him a really, really good GM, is because he brings stuff out of you that you don't really realize you have.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Following that, I'm driving home. I get a call from the head coach of the G League team, and he said, "Hey, I want you a part of the staff. This is what's going to happen. Yada yada yada." And So to answer your question, no, I had no idea I was going to interview for position going into Saturday or Sunday. I even knew that they all their positions were filled out, so I just didn't think there was even a possibility of me even getting a job. But I wanted to create that, put my foot in, so then
Mhm.
maybe next year, that following year, I might have an opportunity to interview. But going into that first year, no, absolutely not.
How did you keep that tunnel vision where you're like, if this doesn't work out now, I still have another year? How did you keep that focus and not go, I need to do something else to, maybe income, or I need to figure something else out in the meantime? How did you just
Yeah,
keep it going?
yeah, I think, you know, I looked at my age, and I think I started with the G League when I was, shoot, 4 years ago now. So it was when I was 20. I think I was like 21 at the time. I just turned 21. So
Correct.
I was thinking, well, if I don't get it this year, I'm still gonna be 22. I think I'm still gonna be ahead of the curve,
Yeah.
and I need to make sure I'm ahead of the curve because I've already got a bunch of things going against me. I've not. I mean, I'm Asian, short, never played in college, things like that. And so I was like, well, if I'm really gonna go for it, 1 year's not gonna kill me. And I think I'm still ahead of curve. If I'm now just getting into it and I'm 27, 28, I may need to start thinking about a different direction. Right.
Right.
So yeah, the tunnel vision just came just because of my age, and I felt like I still had an advantage in it.
Right. Okay. Now tell me about, you were a scouting for when you were for the Stockton Kings. You were
Mhm.
scouting. You chopped up video and tape.
Yeah.
And then Derek, is that Dark? Derek Martin, is that how you say it?
Derek Martin.
Yeah. Now he pulled you aside and wants you to be an assistant coach. Can you kind of tell me about that?
Yeah, it was Derek Martin had a coach. Derek Martin had a very, very empowering personality. So when I was in Reno my first year and I was
Right.
just an intern, I mean, my position was video coordinator and director of basketball operations. And he came up to me and he was like, "Hey, I don't care what anybody else says or thinks. You're an assistant coach on the staff, and that's how I want everybody to treat you as, and that's how I want you to hold yourself."
Hmm.
I came, so you're thinking of me. I never coached in the pro level, so I'm like, oh, now I'm an assistant coach. I was video coordinator Dobo, and now I'm assistant coach too. So, that first year was a huge shock to me. That second year with Reno with Coach Demart, I
Hmm.
was solely the video coordinator. Um, Still acted as assistant coach, just wasn't on my title.
Right.
But I think that following year when I was with Coach Ty Ellis, and Anthony McClish is the one who actually, proposed the idea of, hey, you're going to be a video coordinator, but I'm also going to add assistant coach because I think, you're ready for it.
Hmm.
So, that conversation was, uh, big sign of accomplishment, I think, for myself, because coming from where I was, and I didn't have a harsh upbringing or anything like that, but the odds were definitely against me to coach in a pro level, and I actually get it on my title now that I'm an official assistant coach.
Hmm.
That was huge for me, and built even more confidence than I had before. Yeah, but that
Awesome.
it was awesome. Yeah.
Now, what did you do as assistant coach?
Oh man, I think because I had a dual role of assistant coach and video coordinator, my day to day was a little hectic.
Hmm.
Um, so it'd start off with, I get in early, you're breaking down film of the next opponent or that previous game. So, if we're playing Jeremiah Martin, for example, he was with the Sioux Falls Skyforce on a two-way. If we were playing Sioux Falls, I'd take a look at when we're going to play Sioux Falls, and I'd make sure we'd have their last 2 to 5 games broken down, ready for the coaches to take a look at. That's just the video roll. And then after every game day, right after the game, I'm breaking down that current game so I can get on head coach's computer by the morning time, within a couple hours of post game. And then the assistant coach part, every assistant coach has a scout or multiple teams for a scout. So I
Hmm.
would sit down with that coach, and we would go through the breakdown of the film and what clips we want to show, what clips we don't, different attributes of different players, what plays they're running, how we're going to stop them, and kind of formulate a plan essentially. And the the advantage of being the video coordinator is I really watch the most film out of anybody
Right.
because I'm watching all film from every single team. And so I can also have a say on every single game on, I think, maybe we shouldn't double them there because these other games they were killing other teams because of that, da da da, right?
Mm.
Um, and then if it's my scout, then I get full reins of what I think and everything. So it was cool having that dual role of assistant coach and video coordinator.
Now you went to OU and you did a sports management. You went into that. Who kind of directed you into you need to really think about that career?
It was Jeff Adiego with Golden State Warriors in their basketball camps. He approached me and talked about what's next steps were for me in
Hmm.
my life, and at that time I was at San Jose State, and so I went to De Anza College, and then once I went to De Anza College, I knew I wanted to wanted to transfer somewhere that had sports management because San Jose State didn't have it, which is the reason why I went to De Anza.
Hmm.
And I took a look. Everything in California in terms of sports management was on the kinesiology department. I didn't want to learn my prerequisites in the body,
Right.
learn about, the femur and all that. Like that's not me. I want strictly business, the business side of basketball. And so I found a few programs and OU just really stuck with me. And so I applied, got in, and as soon as I got that acceptance letter, it was pretty set in stone that I was going to go there. Had never visited, nothing like that. It was pretty set in stone.
You just kind of knew that this was something that you needed to.
Yeah, I just knew it was the right fit. I just felt, I don't know, something about it. I did more research online and I was like, yeah, the Price Business School over there, and then having sports management. They had a sports management club. They had all these opportunities to be mentored by executives out in Oklahoma that are in the sports business field. And so I got an experience with that too. And I'm thankful for that experience, even though I was only there for a semester essentially, because I got a call mid-year that first year that and something in analytics as an intern on a game day position opened up with Golden State, so I went back.
Right. Now
So
you had an internship with the Thunder. Is that correct?
hmm
Now, what
yeah,
did you do as for the Thunder?
yeah. So the Thunder, that was still before I had hopped over to the basketball side, so I was still in game operations. So I was helping coordinate their halftime shows, their timeout entertainment, their cheerleaders, their things like that. It was very very different than the
Hmm.
basketball side, so it's completely different. But there, I got to you know get to know a lot of people within that organization and get a lot of advice as well. That was very valuable.
I think what makes your story cool is that you kind of did a little bit of everything, even like
Right,
the dirty work. You had to like
right.
just go in and just tuck your head down and like I can come out the other end. Did you ever think that you're gonna come out on the other end better, or was there times you're like, I might just be entertainment coordinator for my whole life. This might be it.
Yeah, I've when I was in it, especially at Oklahoma City, I was like, man, I don't hate it. Like it was fun. Like it was cool. And I was like, I don't think I would enjoy it as much as I would be being a coach on the
Mm-hmm.
basketball side. Odds are probably against me, so I think I, counted my blessings a little bit and was like, you know what, I kind of enjoy this. This is fine. So I'm happy here if this is what life has for me.
Right.
Um, but yeah, even going back to when I was 18, 19, I worked at Champs and I was an assistant. I worked up from regular sales associate to assistant manager at Champs because I figured, well, if I'm gonna want to be a GM one day, then I should know the inner workings of the team store and things like that. So I was like, well, let me take that business approach and take care of that as well. Little do I know now that I don't really want to be a GM, and so
Mm-hmm.
that's not really what I want. I want to be a coach, and I found that love for it. And thanks, shout out to Anthony McClish again. I'm going to keep shouting him out because he is the reason why I am here. He is the
Mm-hmm.
reason why we have uh, two Pacific Division championships, three or playoff appearances. All 3 years he was the head GM. He is the man, and he deserves every bit of uh, praise that could ever be out there. He is the reason why a lot of people are successful in their positions for sure. Um, but then again, again, he's the one that made me the video coordinator and director of basketball operations. I know I'm ranting, I'm sorry, but
Yeah, no,
I
man,
want to give
it's
him
all okay.
credit that, because going to that first year, I was the director of basketball operations, and
Yeah.
he kind of, I was hired for that, and he told me,
Mhm.
well, we want you to start interviewing video coordinators, because we're going to need someone for that position. That's going to be your first task. So I was interviewing a lot of people, narrowed it down to about 5 people that I liked. Then
Mhm.
I get a random call one day from him. He said, hey, I know you got some video experience and you didn't really know what you wanted to do. So I think this might be a really good opportunity for you. Are you ready for it? And I was like, yeah, what is it? And he said, well, we don't want to spend money on having a video coordinator. And I know you have some video experience, and this might give you a chance to really understand and give you some clarity on what you want to do going forward in your career.
Mhm.
So do you want to take the video coordinator role on top of that? So that was a blessing in disguise that he was willing to give me that opportunity. Because if it wasn't for that, I would be on the director of basketball operations side, on the front office side, that I probably wouldn't have enjoyed as much as I did on the coaching side. Because
Right.
video coordinator, you're on the court and you're doing things hands on with the players. And so, yeah, that's my little rant on Anthony McClish, because I think he's a phenomenal person, and even better general manager in person.
That's awesome. So like, he kind of looked out more for. Do you think he put business aside and just saw somewhat your career ahead of you, and he knew that he could take you and be
Absolutely.
someone?
Absolutely. I think he saw something in me. He saw things in me that I didn't see in myself.
Right.
Like I didn't think I was going to be a coach at that level. Like no
Mhm.
shot. But he, continuing to talk to him every day, and the responsibility that he gives you, and he means that. Right out the gate, he said, "Well, I hired you for a reason, so you got to do your job. This is don't tell me I think this, like or maybe this. Don't be wishy washy. If you have
Right.
an opinion on somebody, tell me. If you
Right.
think he sucks, tell me he sucks. Don't give me the wraparound of, he can do this and this, but he's not very good at this. No, just tell me he's not good at this. This is what
Mhm.
he's good. This is where he can help us. If you don't like him, you don't like him. Don't give me don't tell me that I trust you. He trusts your opinions. He trusts you and values you as a person. And yeah, he's great.
Did you ever have to cut? Did you ever influence anybody to cut a player when you're breaking down film and you're just like, this isn't a place for him? Did you ever feel bad, or did you ever have to do that in the first place?
Yeah, because I was being an assistant coach, you have more of a hand in those in those decisions, and
Mhm.
building the relationship with McClish. I think it gave me more of a weight and a pull to, I think my opinions valued a little bit more as the years went on. So like
Yeah.
this past year, I had more of a hand, I think, in those type of roster decisions than I did in the past.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's things that we have conversations about all the time, and I can't be too transparent, but at the same time, coaches do have a say in who gets cut, who gets traded, and who we are not a fan of, and who we don't think fits the system, and as well as who we think on other teams fits our system, and how can we get them. So you know th- it does suck. That's the worst part about the business is cutting somebody, and I don't think we did too much of that really, aside from training camp. On our team, we really stuck with who we've got, and had a passion and a determination to develop them,
Right.
because we saw something in them from the beginning. So we're not quick to be like, well, he sucks, we're gonna get rid of him. Now we're gonna
Mhm.
figure out a way to make him work. So you know we haven't had to have too many of those just hard decisions on we need to cut this guy for this guy. So
Mhm.
luckily, in our organization, and that's what I've been a part of some really good staffs too.
Now you officially started traveling with the team. How was that experience? Did you ever see yourself that before at any other teams, were you able to hop on a plane and sit right next to someone, or did you have to, kind of sit back and just wait?
No, yeah, I've never imagined being so squished on a Southwest Airlines flight, having sometimes the middle seat between our two centers, because I was the smallest guy on staff. So
Right.
never imagined that, nor will I ever wish for that ever again either, because they got to sit certain ways. They're all like going sideways and
Right.
everything. I'm comfortable, but still, yeah, that. never would have thought that I would be sitting next to these professional players, let alone on a Southwest flight, at 5 in the morning. But uh, yeah, that was an eye opener for me, and especially that first year, I get to travel with team. It was that actually no, sorry, the first year I didn't even travel. The second year I traveled,
Hmm.
and that was something that was like, whoa. So this is like the grind, and you think about the travel and how much that impacts player performance. Like,
Right.
I think people don't give the players enough credit on, you know, what their body goes through.
Right.
I'm not even playing, and
Hmm.
we'll go through a workout at practice, and we'll get on a plane, and you're flying in the next day, and you got to play that night, and it's like I'm so sore. How is that like I
Hmm.
can't imagine. So when you think about Kobe dropping 60, 80 points in a row, and
Right.
LeBron and all these big name players, I'm like, that's great. That is greatness right there, because the
Hmm.
grind and travel itself is insane.
Especially for the G League, since the G League is like, underrated.
Commercial.
Yeah, so you
And
guys don't
you
really, you guys
travel.
don't get the treatment of like the
No,
way the NBA teams do. You guys are very, you know, dirty
just
the
make
way
it
things.
work.
Yeah.
G League is very make it work, and
Hmm.
it's different organization to organization. We practice at the Boys and Girls Club sometimes. We practice at a high school.
Right.
No cold tub. You just get into the hotel bathtub, or to tape an ankle. You're just putting a couple foldable chairs together to make a little taping table for your
Hmm.
athletic trainer. So it'll definitely help you be creative and think outside the box for sure. Yeah,
Now, what goes
that's why they
into
call the G League a grind.
yeah, it's a grind league. Now, what goes into someone like Kyle Guy? Because I watched Kyle Guy when he was in college, and then he signed with
Mm,
Sacramento, and he had a two-way contract. It seemed like because he
right.
bounced down from the G League, and
Yep.
then finished his season in the bubble.
Correct.
With a player like that, would they go to an NBA practice and then they just go down to a G League game, and then they would kind of bounce back and forth? Did you have any control over like, I think this week he can be up here?
Nope. That's completely management up top. That's completely NBA management and coaching staff in the NBA. So, you know, because players have their days that a certain amount of days they can be up with the NBA, they're a little strategic on when they call players up, when they don't. But no, we have no say on when we think they should be up there and when they shouldn't.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you have any stories to share with like any of the G League players, like on a plane, or any moments that were just like funny or something that you wouldn't think of if you're not
Yeah.
there?
Shoot, man, I think. Oh God, there's a lot. I think there's even more though. In my first year in Reno,
Mm-hmm.
we were working with interesting things, right? So, we are there was one time I was the director of basketball operations,
Mm-hmm.
and we were trying to save money, and there is a bus that we had to get for the players,
Mm-hmm.
and there was some sort of malfunction with the
Mm-hmm.
bus. I didn't travel, so I wasn't there, but I heard about it.
Right.
There was some sort of malfunction with the brakes on the bus, and luckily they didn't leave the parking lot. But it definitely scared all the players and everything, which I completely understand. But it was,
Right.
oh God, there's more details to that story that I think I can't share. But yeah, that's the Spark Notes version. There's a lot of fun times. I think hanging out with the players, and but still establishing that line, because I'm around their age, establishing that
Right.
line. I'm still your coach. I can't go out with you or anything like that. Can't have drinks and things like that.
Right.
So, um, but there's a lot of funny times that happen on the road, and at the airport. We're stuck at the airport. We're with each other all the time, so you get sick of
Right.
each other sometimes. You're just
Mm-hmm.
sitting in the lobby together. But then at the same time, you get to really dig on the players and the person that they are, because you get all that downtime. So there's
Uh-huh.
also advantages to that too. But yeah, there's so many funny stories. If something comes to mind, I'll definitely share it with you again. But yeah, there's a lot that probably can't be said on here.
That's, yeah, I was trying to avoid that, but Now the G League
Oh, I
has
mean, oh, yeah, I got one that
okay,
because we're on
go
commercial,
right.
because we're on commercial, right? So we
Uh-huh.
have to sometimes we have to go from here to the East Coast, from
Right.
California to the East Coast.
Mm,
There's no direct flight. You're taking Southwest, so sometimes we have to connect. We had one player who was on his phone. He had his headphones on, wasn't thinking. So we're like, okay, we got to connect. We texted all the players, or our Dobo, Jamie Gillis, and Katie Luring, our athletic trainer who handled the travel, texted in our team group chat, said, hey, don't dilly dally. We got a connecting flight that leaves in 20 minutes, and it's going to take about that time because you got to take the tram in the Dallas airport from one terminal to the next terminal. So make sure we're booking it, literally like fast walking, running,
right.
so we don't miss it. We're at the gate, and then one of our players, we couldn't find him, so we call him. We're on the plane. He's like, "Oh, I'm outside. I'm at baggage claim. I'm outside waiting for our bus." We were like, "What do you mean you're outside waiting for the bus? We have a connecting flight."
Right.
Long story short, the homie was not paying attention. He was on his phone, had his earphones on, walked out, exited the airport and everything. He had to go back through security, misses the flight, the connecting flight. He gets in, later that day or that night. But things like that happen, because you're dealing with connecting flights, and players sometimes think they can get some food and get a quick bite before
Right.
the flight, and they miss the boarding time. And yeah, there's a lot of moving parts that make the G League very, very interesting.
Now, is it sometimes difficult for players because these are still professional athletes? Some of them play in the NBA. Are you
Right.
guys traveling through like O'Hare Airport at like
Mm-hmm.
public airports in the middle of
Yep.
the day? Before the COVID hit, was it hard to like get around? Because obviously you guys draw attention when you guys are wearing
Right.
Keens hoodies and they're
Right.
7 foot tall. Is it
Right.
sometimes a distraction for the players when they're just trying to sit down and relax, and then you have people filtering in and out trying to know who they are?
Yeah, I know some of the players feel that way. Where it's like they just got off a 5 a.m. flight from Sacramento to O'Hare in Chicago, and they're like, I don't want to talk to anybody. So that's when the headphones come into a big time effect.
Yeah.
But when we're walking, sometimes we split up our staff and make sure we're with some of the players, because if we got to be somewhere, or if we know that they're not really feeling talking to anybody or fans or things like that, because some people follow the G League. So it's surprising. Some people follow these guys' career from college, especially if they went to college in that little area.
Right.
They'll follow him, and so if they notice him, they want to have a long conversation. So we got to make sure that some of our staff hang around some of the players, and we're like, oh no, sorry, we got to go. We got to get to our gate, to kind of speed up those conversations. And because sometimes, like anybody, if you're just, if it's early in the morning, you don't really want to be talking, spoken to and have a long conversation. You're just trying to rest your eyes and hang out.
I think that proves that these guys are just like normal human beings, just like us. They just
Normal.
happen to be better at basketball than most of us. But
Absolutely.
do they do like regular things that like kind of goes over people's heads? Do they have regular issues, or you'll see
Oh,
that and be like, oh, I would never expect a pro basketball player to be dealing with this.
oh yeah. Players have, you know, all the time. They run through every personal problem that anybody else goes through. Like, you would think because they got all this money, they probably got someone, handling this for them and that for them. Most players don't. They
Right.
handle most of it themselves. Like, Kyle Guy, or not Kyle Guy, but some of our players had issue with their internet. They had to call AT&T and get it figured out.
Mhm.
It's real world problems that they're normal people too. So, but yeah, they've got no special treatment really.
Now, when you guys were flying, were you guys in like the first class, or were you guys in the regular? You guys
No
were
shot.
regular, sitting right next to Joe Schmo, right next to you.
It was worse because back when we were in Reno, we had a travel agent who would check us in, right? Because on Southwest, you got to check in like 24 hours on the dot so you can get the A boarding listing,
Right.
or else you miss, you go to B or C.
Uh-huh.
I remember one time we got a C. Ooh, our head coach was livid. He was pissed because when you get to C, there's nothing really but middle seats, right? And you can't have our 7-footers sitting in the middle.
Right. And then they have
So,
to perform the next day or that day.
exactly. So from then on, our travel agent was better, but still, like, we are not pre-boarding. We're not doing any of the special amenities. boarding like any other regular people. We're just in a group, but late A's, early B's is what we're hoping for every time we check into the airport.
Hmm.
And yeah, no, nothing special, no special treatment.
Now, did you start a company called Hundreds Hustle, or is that something you're a part of?
Yeah, I started this company to kind of bring awareness to basketball camps and wanting to provide low cost basketball camps, but with more knowledge and more IQ testing and more uh, just pouring more knowledge into the kids at a lower cost. Because I think, especially where I'm from in the Silicon Valley, you've got
Mhm.
Tesla, you got all the Apple, all these big companies here, so there's a lot of money here because there's a lot of engineers and everything. I just wasn't a fan of a lot of different people and whatever running camps or running lessons for a crazy amount of price because that's what the demographic is over here, but then
Right,
pouring out bad advice or very top of the level advice, baseline level advice.
right,
And that's something I thought needed to change. And I'm going to go to places, like any place, there's going to be bad parts of the city. There's going to be people who don't have a lot of money, and this is what keeps them out of trouble, right?
right,
And especially in our world, that the world that it is today, you know, we've got a lot of people, we're fighting each other, and it's a
right.
really, really bad place right now. And
Mhm.
sports is the one language that really brings people together. And so, if I'm able to do that at a low cost or even free
Right.
camp, that I think pays dividends in the long run, just because I'm helping somebody else, stay off the streets and doing some other things they could be doing.
Well, I mean, not
But
only, you're saving money, but you could save someone's career. I mean, there might be
absolutely.
someone from the projects or the inner city where
Right.
their family can't pay for a camp, but they got the skills
Absolutely.
to play to get paid for playing basketball. So I think it's
Exactly.
great that you have the financial opportunity to say, if you can play ball, then
Absolutely.
you come over here. Now you break
Right.
down film, and what else do you do at that? Is it like an organization where players email
Uh,
you and say, "Can you break this down?"
for 100 Hustle.
Yeah,
Yeah, so when we do camps, and then we've talked about doing some breakdown stuff, film, but we've kind of transitioned into e-commerce right now. And if you go on our website, like, we sell a lot of basketball hoops, recovery equipment, fitness
hmm,
equipment, because we figured out that that's going to help us monetize our business and build opportunities for us to give back. Because
right.
back when I was doing the camps for 2 years, everything was coming out of my pocket.
Hmm.
Kids couldn't pay this certain amount, then I just covered it. And it was, I was like, I can't be doing this all the time, or else I'm not going to have any money left for myself.
Hmm.
So this is what we're doing to help monetize. So for anybody, if you're out there looking for a basketball hoop, fitness equipment, recovery equipment, golf stuff, we got you covered. But and it's going toward a good cause. But
Now,
yeah, in terms of basketball itself,
mhm.
that's something for the future. We are gonna, have film breakdown for pros to high school players and things like that. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, when you were the video coordinator for the G League, did you get a lot of emails of guys who played college ball and then were like, this is what I can do, uh, you know, let me let anybody know on the Canes that I can play ball. Did you have a lot of those emails?
Absolutely. I get DMs still, to this day. Instagram DMs of guys. I'm 6'8", I can play. Yada yada. You get emails all the time. G League is it might be a little bit more than, I don't think NBA really gets that. I think it's just the G League because we're
Yeah.
so close. I think because we have tryouts and things like that. Um, but yeah, we get that. I get that all the time. Yeah.
Have you ever seen a guy? Have you gotten a DM from a guy that you're like maybe, but have you ever gotten a DM that he's someone or email that sparked your interest that you're like, this guy
Yeah,
has a chance?
yeah. I think earlier in my career, my first year in the G League, I got a DM or an email, and I looked at this guy's tape, and I was like, "Dang, see, he can play. He could really play."
Oh,
Um, Little did I, realize later on. I thought about it, and I was like, "This is his highlight tape. Like, his highlight tape is, of course, going to show all of his makes and him doing these crazy moves and making people fall or whatever." But then
right.
when you take a look at their name and you go on these platforms like Synergy and these different game film platforms that we have to
Mhm.
kind of get to know a player, if you watch a full game or you watch some of their clips where they're not scoring and what are they doing without the ball, how are they defending, you're like, yeah, you almost got me there because
He
you're not
almost,
what you perceive to be. Yeah.
yeah, I think that's crazy that you get messages and
Yeah, but
people shooting their shot.
no
But I mean, it's
fault to
just
them.
fair.
Yeah, no fault to them though. They're trying to get a career in basketball, and I hear you. At some point, you just got to keep knocking until someone tells you not to knock anymore. So no hard feelings and uh, no ill feelings toward people who do that.
Um, is there any players on the G League that have a similar story to that? Did you run into anybody, any player that they had a story of they, really came from like no exposure to then all of a sudden they're getting paid for basketball? Do you have any of those like encounters that you're like, similar to email stories,
Yeah,
but more of
yeah,
a
not
sense?
necessarily email. Like I knew somebody growing up, and they had played a lot. Obviously, they played in college.
Right.
They weren't necessarily a pro player. They've been out of college for a little while, but I knew him because we coached. We coached together at Warriors camp, and he was like, "I'm gonna come to your tryout, whatever." I don't like to play bias, so I don't. He came out, and I was like, "Great, show up and good luck." Our coaching staff actually loved him, and they didn't know what his background was, and they didn't realize that he had not played pro in a little while, and you know which is essentially kind of the same thing. If you got really no recent film to show, besides ABA or things like that, nothing really high level competitive. He ended up making our roster and finished the season with us in Reno, and
Mhm.
um, I think is inspiring. I think with our organization, with McClish at the lead, he was big on trying to reduce the amount of cuts
Mhm.
and bringing people in who we know are good people first before skills, because we can improve a guy's skills. It's harder to improve somebody's bad habits, you know.
Right. Their personality.
So right, and so he went that route, and it was inspiring because a lot of the guys who went through our tryout, whoever made it out of the tryout and went to our training camp,
Mhm.
I think it's got to be around 80% to 85, maybe even 90% of those players ended up on our final season roster at some point throughout the season.
Wow.
So, which is pretty inspirational in itself.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Right.
All right, well, that's gonna wrap up this interview. Thank you so much for being on here. I think your story needs to be shared from when you went from wiping floors at a tryout to being an assistant coach of the G League.
Well,
Uh,
Jordan, you've got a bright future, man. I know you're only 17, and it's crazy that, you know, I had just talked to somebody about, where are the young kids? Where are the kids like me that are looking to break into the business, or even just learn about the business and learn about people that are in it? Like, where are those people? And that's sure enough, I got a DM from you, and I was ecstatic because I was like, this is
yeah.
this is who I'm talking. This is exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, you got a bright future, and shoot, one day I don't know what your outlook is on what you want to do, but um, one day I may be asking you for a job. So keep on grinding, keep on working, and I was more than happy to be a part of this. You've got a really good thing going on here, and keep it up.
All right, thank you so much.